Welcome to Grieve with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all. Reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course, discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grieve with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grieve with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up with all things Grieve with Portia. One of the things that I think we often don't realize about people and humans is the resilience that we have and how we're able to express our grief, our loss through just as simple as sticky notes. So today I have the honor of being joined by an individual who I met over Instagram, and I was fascinated by her Instagram handle. It started with one sticky note. So welcome, Miss Hillary Peterson to Grieve with Portia. Hillary, how are you today?
I am doing great, Portia. Thank you so much for having me.
Hillary, as I mentioned, you started this Instagram from something simple as everyday sticky notes, right? We all have them around. I have a few on my desk. One of them has a quote that says, writing is a way to organize your thoughts. And I know for you, you went through an unexpected divorce. And a lot of people have experienced a divorce and they've found themselves in that, if you want to call it, pit of their own sorrow, where it's hard for them to live life, find meaning. And before we really jump into your healing journey, Hillary, I'm curious if you would share with our audience today who you were during that time of your marriage, and what do you want to hold on to share with our audience how they can continue to hold on to those memories and also grieve the pieces that are no longer present?
Well, first of all, the person I was when I was married and always have been is I'm a loyal person, hardworking, I'm honest. Those are things that are just part of me and will always be part of me. I guess a caregiver is another one that I want to hold on to. And I do have 3 kids and they're, the light of my life. So I will always be their mother and be excited for their lives and take care of them.
And Hillary, that's the thing. For some people, and I've seen this happen where when they've experienced that separation, that change in the family dynamic, and there are children present, sometimes it's as though looking at the children reminds you of the pain of what once was. And I'm curious, Hillary, for our audience, how do you work through that? How do you keep that radiance of, I've got these 3 beautiful lights that have come into my life that essentially can be mirrors for you on the hard days?
Yeah. My biggest thing is to concentrate on what I'm doing and what I can keep doing to move forward. And it's also important for me to be pretty real with them and, talk about the hard days, not hide the hard days. They're teenagers, so I feel like I can do a little bit more, depending how old they are. You have to be age appropriate. But my biggest fear when this all happened was how it was going to impact them. I knew I could move forward myself and figure things out myself. But my biggest fear was that, in my darkest days, their lives would crumble and be horrible and they would never be right. And what I learned through the healing process is actually my life and their life is going to be even more magnificent than I ever could have imagined.
Mm. And I love that, Hillary, you're transparent about it all, right?
Mm,
Your kids are teenagers, so they're not little where they can understand. They can articulate their feelings. You can touch base with them about different things that maybe if they were younger, you might have had a little bit of a challenge.
right.
And I'm curious, Hillary, too. I'm sure you've seen this as well, where there's different people who take the time to celebrate their divorces. They go all out similar to a
Mm.
bachelor or bachelorette party. And I'm curious if you would share with our audience what were some of maybe the emotions and waves you went through that people who have experienced a divorce often don't talk about because they're afraid of judgment and guilt.
Mm. So I obviously sadness, and I'm sure we all talk about that, and we all talk about feeling depressed and lonely. Um, I felt a sense of shame, even though it wasn't my decision, it wasn't my choice. I had no say in the matter. Um, and there were moments where I had glimpses of feeling almost emancipated, and that I would kind of be down about certain things and certain things not being the way I expected them to be. And then I thought, wait a minute, but now I actually get to do it my way. I can just make this decision. I can just do it. I don't have to check in with anyone else. And I can move forward and do whatever I want. One of the sticky notes I have on my wall was from my attorney, and she said, Hillary, I want you to be excited about the life you have ahead of you. And boy, was she right about that.
Mm. And what a statement to come from an attorney, because
I know.
sometimes, right, attorneys tend to be a little dry and very business. There's I like to call it the gargoyle syndrome with them, where they're intimidating to be around depending on who they are and the kind of attorney that they might be. And Hillary, we're going to segue because I mean, I can see, and our audience can also see if they're watching this, the amount of sticky notes behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And could you share with us, Hillary, how did it started with a sticky note, no pun intended, begin for you as your open door to start working with the experience and the pain of your unexpected divorce?
So I guess during my healing process, I read a kabillion books. I talked to so many people. I was in therapy, all sorts of things. And anytime something would strike me, I would jot it down on a sticky note and just slap it back there on my wall. And before I knew it, I had this I have over 270 sticky notes on this wall.
Wow.
And there were times when I remember this one particular time I was headed to a mediation appointment, which was never fun for me. And I was so like befuddled in my head. So I just stood here and I went through every single one of them just to kind of try to get in a different space. And the one that stuck out to me was do what you can and be still. And I went to that appointment, and that's exactly what I did. And it served me so well rather than over explaining and trying this and trying that and trying to make things different. Everything. I just said what was on my mind and I sat back. And it was brought a sense of peace to me. So writing these down was healing to me, and reading them is healing to me. And some of them even really just give me hope.
Well, and I love, Hillary, the do what you can and be still. Because when we're in that transitional period, our mind is going everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We're emotionally exhausted. The waterworks show is probably on repeat on TV, I'm sure. And you're feeling as though you're going a million miles a minute, even though you're still.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes those phrases are the grounding ingredient we need to start pivoting and healing from what was sent to help us to
Exactly.
flourish.
Yep. Yep. One of the things that also happened to me during this time was my faith definitely grew. And I think in part it was because I just, everything was out of control. And every time I tried to understand something or figure something out, it wouldn't go that way. So I realized, once I realized I'm not in control, I'm not the one pulling the strings here. I just need to sit back and let things unfold to see how this is all going to play out.
And sometimes you need that
Mm,
to be still. Let what's the saying? Let go and let God.
right.
Hillary, another thing I know about you is that you hold spaces for women to speak, to feel seen, to feel heard and valued. I'm curious, when you've been leading these groups, what's something that you noticed that has stood out for you as far as what people really need when they're going through a difficult transition in their life?
What I have found is that what people need is someone to listen. That was one of the greatest gifts. When this first happened, my world shrunk. I had very few people I talked to, but I could call them anytime, any day, and just talk and talk and talk and talk. And they listened. And people don't necessarily need advice, they don't need feedback. They just need you to listen to them.
Yeah, they need you to be present,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they don't want you to hand them another regurgitated platitude script. My
Right.
favorite, Hillary, I'm sure you've heard this when someone experiences a loss or a transition in their life. The first thing that a lot of people say is either my condolences, I'm
Mm.
sorry for your loss. And those both irk my nerves. They do. And I think for me, I'm very intentional when
Mm.
I hear of somebody who has experienced a transition. I'll reach out to them directly myself or comment or however I find out about the
Okay.
transition. And I'll say to them, I'm sending love your way.
Yes.
I'm here to support you how I can. And I genuinely do. I send people
Yes.
DMs all the time. And I think it really teaches you to be intentional. I
Yes.
do. I think it really helps you to narrow your focus on who is in your corner, filter out
Absolutely.
the people who were, I like to call the paparazzi clan without the cameras.
Uh,
and it gives you that sense of a new appreciation for life.
absolutely. Yep.
Hillary, for our audience who's tuning in, I'm sure that there is someone else out there who has experienced either that unexpected divorce, that unexpected loss in their life,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a job, a person who they saw yesterday who is no longer here. What words of encouragement can you give them today from your own lens and what you've gone through to help them as they navigate this new transition in their life that was unexpected?
It's important to go through a healing process. So that means that you're going to have to feel some things and it's not going to be great. But when you feel them, you will learn how to deal with those things. You will learn different tools and strategies. You will learn how to ask for help for sure. And then you will start to move to a different level. I don't think the pain ever goes away. It just hits you a little bit different. And
Mm,
and that's fine. Like that's okay because this transition, whatever it is for you, it's that ugly puzzle piece that you have in a puzzle that you think can't possibly fit anywhere. And then one day it fits in there. And when you step back, you see this beautiful picture of your life. So this transition, it's just one little bit.
Mm. One piece of the puzzle. I like that analogy, Hillary. I do because we've all put together some type of puzzle. Me and my boyfriend, I've posted about this in my Facebook and Instagram stories that he's gotten me into Legos. And one of the Lego projects we're working on is a Porsche. And he
Ooh,
had to contact the Lego company, I guess, because they gave us an extra piece that's not part of the Lego set that we need.
ah,
So sometimes it is that piece that wasn't meant to stay there or wasn't meant to fit for long
mm,
term.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hillary, this has been a beautiful conversation. I thank you for coming on. Before we wrap up for today, Hillary, if our audience wants to connect with you, be a part of one of your women's groups or anything that you have coming up, please share that with our audience today.
Great. Thank you, Portia. So I have Instagram at It Started With One Sticky Note. There's also a Facebook page for that as well. And I do run a local women's empowerment group. We meet the first and third Monday of every month at our local senior center. And I'm also going on the road with joyful workshops, and it's basically a workshop of building a how to build joy into your life and creating a joyful to-do list for you. So that's in some local areas close to me here in north central Connecticut.
All right. Well, everybody, you can follow Hillary on Instagram at face and Facebook. It started with one sticky note, and we'll also have that in the show notes. If you're local in Connecticut, you can attend one of her women's empowerment groups and follow her from there. Well, everybody, that was Miss Hillary Peterson that you heard from today on this episode of Grew Up Portia. And that concludes our conversation for today. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease, everyone.